I have a fun technique for you featuring Stampin' Up's new two-toned cardstock, and all you need is a sanding block and an embossing stylus. I have the Nest of Winter paper collection, and I'm going to be documenting some outdoor photos. This is from a hike in Alaska, and we were hiking at Battery Point Trailhead. This is I think it's spelled Chilkat. I think it's Chilkoot State Park, and it was beautiful, like most of Alaska is. So I have lots of photos here, and I think this paper is going to be perfect. It is a Christmas-inspired paper, but as you can see, my photos have nothing to do with Christmas. So we've got these great birds, greenery type of papers, some bark textures. I have used this, so some of these are already cut into, but I know I want to use these two papers here and maybe a little bit of this one. We'll see if I can bring that in a bit. But let me clear this out of the way. I did say Christmas paper, but really it's more of like a wintry vibe. Now, I am using my January sketch challenge. I create a sketch challenge each month for my customers over my customer appreciation Facebook group, and I haven't made this layout yet, so now's the time. I've got just the right amount of photos. This is Garden Green, and it is the two-tone. So we've got the lighter on one side and the darker on the other, and you'll need either, I've got a paper trimmer here, or you can use a scoreboard. Now, I flipped it over to where the light side of the paper is facing up, and we are going to create a frame. So I've got my embossing stylus, and I've put this 1/4 of an inch in so that I am going to create 1/4 of an inch. There'll be a line 1/4 inch all the way around my layout. So I'm joining in the corner. I don't want to go all the way to the edge. So I'm starting 1/4 of an inch in. I'm stopping 1/4 inch from the bottom, and I'm 1/4 of an inch in from the edge of the paper. You don't want to press too hard because you can tear all the way through, but you want it deep enough to make a nice impression. Where the magic happens, now flip this over. So I've got the dark side up, and we are going to sand away the top layer of the embossed raised area, and it will reveal the white core. So now you have this neat little detailed frame around your layout. It's simple, but it's a fun little detail, something different to try. And I've showed all sorts of techniques over the years where you can create fun patterns on your background. This is a simple frame, but I think it's going to have a big impact on the finished layout. So I am just going carefully over that. I don't want to sand my paper away. I just want to sand the raised part. I have trimmed my white cardstock down to 11 inches squared. I've got the green paper now that I've finished scoring and sanding it, and we repeat that on the opposite side. So I've gone ahead and cut my paper strips here as the sketch dimensions suggest. Now I have already cut into this paper, so I was working with some scraps. Now this side, it goes all the way through, but since we have that large photo covering it, you really only see what's poking out the top and bottom, so I can get away with using some of my scrap bits of pattern paper. I've got lots of photos in varied sizes. These are 4x4s. This is a true 4x6, and I am going to mat that on some early Espresso cardstock there. And then these are approximately 2 3/4. So we're going to sit these right down in this space and then create this row of little mini photos across the bottom there. This is the Country Woods wood grain paper pack. I love this stuff, and I thought it would complement my outdoor layout perfectly. So there's the brown tone on this particular side, which I do like. However, then my Espresso brown photo mat doesn't really show up. What if we use the lighter wood grain side, and we get some of that visual interest and that just wooden textural element, and we still can appreciate the photo mat. I'm going to add a little definition with gray ink to the edges here. And as I mentioned, that main focal photo is 4x6. The Espresso brown mat, early Espresso, is 1/8 of an inch bigger, and then this piece here is a 5x7. So it's a way to really add some, interest and draw your eye to a particular focal photo on the layout. But you could also use a 5x7 photo here and not have as many mats. I decided to cut a mat for both of these 4x4 photos from the same early Espresso paper. So I think this looks pretty good and we can start the fun embellishing process. I did go through my outdoor adventure stamps. This is an oldie but a goodie and it's called Aurora. Look, we've got a piece already in here. And sometimes I like to do that where you stamp and then kind of paper piece them together, but that is really not showing up at all. Let's try, there's this one in here. It says Adventure Outside. And I think that this might work better. So let's just peel this off and we will stamp this. Yeah, I think that's going to have more of an impact on the page. So here's a piece of white cardstock. And to match the layout, I am going to stamp this in early espresso. And then we can see how this looks rather than that other one over there. Titles do not have to be this big, element on the layout. They can be smaller, and then you can make them stand out more with the surrounding embellishments. So I have a couple other ideas for this as well. It does have a coordinating die, so I'm going to go ahead and die cut that one out. Let me bring this back into frame here, and we'll set that aside and swap these out. So it's still not really standing out against that busy pattern paper. I've got a couple circles and other elements here. I've got some sprigs. This is like the circle from the textured timber. These are all left over from other projects. And these are die cut using the Spotlight on Nature dies. And what I'm thinking is maybe matting this on a little bit of brown. That might really make that pop. And you know what I have here? I have a fun new toy. These Hexagon dies are awesome. These are the meant to be dies, like a bumblebee, and there's a bunch of different sizes. Oh, that's going to be perfect. It's the exact same shape, slightly bigger. So the way these work, you get the inner portion, but they also cut a frame. So lots of different ways to use these. And let's see how that looks. But let me show you. Actually, let's just get this adhered down really quick and I'll show you the frame. But you can see just by matting that on that dark brown paper, really makes that stand out against the background and make all the difference. This is the frame, so it cuts both pieces at once, and you can do all sorts of fun projects with these frames. All of these gorgeous sprigs are from the Golden Greenery collection. This is a stamp set, and there's coordinating dies. You can stamp the images and die cut them out, but there's also pattern paper full of these beautiful sprigs that you can cut with the coordinating dies. These particular ones are from the vellum set, so they have this nice little translucency to them, and they're great year-round. They're just pine sprigs and leaves, so you can use those on lots of different layouts, even though it was more kind of a Christmassy collection. I'm actually going to move these around because I want to overlap my sprig over the photo, and it was covering up the sign that showed where we were on the trailhead. So if we move these around, we can get that nice little overlap look without losing anything important. Let's just add these little guys to our different clusters. So we want one here, and then I know I want one, around the title here. Draw your eye to the title, and that background circle is just helping them stand out against the busy pattern paper. And then this one on the far right. So we've got that nice visual triangle there. We went to Alaska in July of 2023, and I'm so excited because I am making a ton of progress on this album, and I'm putting it out there that I'm going to finish this album this year. That is my goal. So now that I've said it, I've got to make it happen, right? So I want something over the top of my photos. I've got the sprigs coming from under, and I found these little pine cones in my stash. This is an oldie but a goodie here. And if you have the Light the Year stamp set, that has a fabulous pine cone on it. It's this beautiful little lantern set, also is a Christmas stamp, but really pretty pine cone and some sprigs too. So this is giving me that nice layered embellishment look. So again, we've got these sprigs coming from behind the photo, and then the pine cones are the finishing piece on top of the photo. So I'm adding a few different elements to each embellishment cluster. I've stamped these in pecan pie and early espresso. I enjoy adding word phrases to my layouts. So this says, slowing down has its perks. This is an old stamp set from my stash called Change of Scenery. So I stamped that in pecan pie, maybe up there. And then I was thinking we could put this as this view and stamp this over the log ground. So if we stamp that in a darker color, my log ground is stamped in a light gray. It's gray granite, which is a nice brown gray. But if we choose maybe early espresso, that should be plenty of contrast for this to really stand out against that background. So I'm going to practice a few times to make sure this is stamping nicely. And then we can go ahead and stamp right on our log ground. Let's try one more time. There, that is looking really good. So just press down, hold it for a moment, and yep, looks good. Now, although this hike was absolutely gorgeous and we had a wonderful time, I don't have a ton of journaling to add because this is one of a lot of hiking layouts and you don't always have to tell a big story, especially when it's a big vacation album. You just get little bits from the journey as you go. So I am going to print out my journaling and cut it into strips. I don't quite like my pine cones. Let's put this one back up here. I like having a different number in each cluster. But I cut these down into tiny strips and it basically just says, another gorgeous hike full of beautiful scenery. We explored the Chilkoot State Park and loved the scenic views. And then I put the date. So I like to adhere these down with liquid glue because you can kind of wiggle them into place and make sure they're straight. And it really helps to pick them up with the tweezers here because then your fingers are not getting all sticky and you can easily see your placement without your fingers in the way. It's been really fun watching the other crafters in my little Facebook community use this sketch and share their creative takes on it. I draw so much inspiration from you guys as well. So I love seeing all the different ways a sketch can be interpreted. And several of them have used this particular paper for outdoor layouts, which inspired me to do the same. So just love it. Everything I used can be found in the description box of the video. And I am so grateful that you stopped by to spend a little time with me today. If you're looking for more outdoor inspiration, check out these videos right here.